The massive space station called Nexus floated in the dark void between three star systems. Ships from dozens of different alien races came and went like busy insects around a hive. Some vessels gleamed like mirrors, others pulsed with strange lights, and a few seemed to bend space around them just by existing. Then there was the human ship. The Perseverance looked like someone had built it from spare metal sheets and hope. Its hull was gray and dented in places. Thick cables ran along its outside like scars. Where other ships curved gracefully through space, the Perseverance moved like a flying brick. Captain Lee Dong-woo stood on his bridge and watched the docking procedure through the main screen. His weathered face showed no emotion as alien workers pointed and laughed at his ship. He had seen this reaction many times before. "Captain, we're getting the usual warm welcome," said Communications Officer Lim Jae-sung from his station. His voice carried just a hint of annoyance. "Let them have their fun," Lee replied calmly. "We have work to do." Down in the engine room, Chief Engineer Yu Jina wiped grease from her hands and listened to the alien dock workers outside. They spoke in their own languages, but universal translators made their words clear enough. "Look at that piece of junk. How does it even stay together? Humans are so primitive." Eugenia had heard worse. She focused on her instruments instead. The ship's readings looked perfect, exactly as they should. The aliens saw an old, slow vessel. They had no idea what they were really looking at. "Doctor." Park Subin sat in his small laboratory, reviewing calculations on his tablet. Numbers and equations filled the screen in neat rows. He had been working on these formulas for 3 years. Today, if everything went right, he would finally test them. A loud bang echoed through the ship's hull. Someone was connecting the fuel lines with less care than needed. Park didn't look up from his work. Soon, very soon, none of this mockery would matter. On the main deck, Navigator O.C. Jin checked their supplies list. Medical equipment, emergency food, water purification units. The colony on Haven's Rest needed these things desperately. A plague had broken out there 2 weeks ago. Every day they waited, more people died. The loading bay doors opened with a mechanical groan. Alien workers floated cargo containers into the ship using gravity belts. Their movements were quick and efficient, but their comments continued. "Surprised. This rust bucket made it this far. Bet it breaks down before leaving the station." Pilot Kim Tae-ho clenched his fists but said nothing. He had been flying ships for 15 years. The Perseverance handled better than most vessels half its age. These aliens knew nothing about human engineering. Medical Officer Bae Hai-wan organized the medical supplies in the cargo bay. Each container held hope for the sick colonists on Haven's Rest. She had trained for emergency medicine on a dozen different worlds. This mission mattered more than alien opinions. Lieutenant Song Hae-jin walked through the ship, checking systems and talking to crew members. Everyone was tense. Not because of the mission, but because of the constant insults floating through the station's communication channels. Weapons Officer Choi Min-seo monitored security from her station. The Perseverance carried no visible weapons, another source of alien amusement. They assumed humans were weak because they didn't show off their strength. Captain Lee received a message on his personal communicator. The text was in Velkari script, automatically translated to Korean. He read it twice, then smiled for the first time that day. "Attention, crew," he announced over the ship's speakers. "We have been challenged to a race." The bridge fell silent. Everyone stopped what they were doing. Lee continued reading from his communicator. "Commander Thektar of the Velkari ship Crystal Wind has announced that his vessel will reach Haven's Rest before our primitive human scrap heap can crawl there. He has made this announcement public across the entire station network." Lim Jae-sung pulled up the station's communication feeds on his screen. Indeed, Thektar's message was broadcasting on multiple channels. The Velkari commander stood tall and graceful in his ship's gleaming bridge, speaking directly to the cameras. "The human vessel represents everything backwards about their species," Thektar said, his crystalline features catching the light. "Slow, ugly, inefficient. My crystal wind will demonstrate superior Velkari engineering. We will arrive at Haven's Rest days before these humans complete their pathetic journey." Other alien voices joined the conversation. Exonian traders were already taking bets. Some wagered the human ship would break down entirely. Others bet it would get lost in hyperspace. Dr. Park looked up from his tablet and caught Captain Lee's eye. The two men exchanged a meaningful glance. Park nodded slightly. "Sir," said Navigator O. Sejin, "the Crystal Wind has engines 3 times more powerful than ours. Their hyperspace drives are the newest Velkari technology. In a straight race, they will win easily." "Will they?" Lee asked quietly. Eugena's voice came through the communications system from the engine room. "Captain, all systems show green. We're ready for departure whenever you give the order." Lee walked to the center of his bridge and looked at each crew member. These people had trained together for months. They knew this day might come. "Dr. Park," Lee said, "are your calculations ready?" "Yes, sir. All equations check out. The modifications are complete." "Chief Yu, is the engine room prepared for unusual stress?" "Everything is reinforced and ready, Captain." Lee nodded slowly. "Then we accept Commander Thektar's challenge. Lim, send a reply on all channels. Tell the station that the crew of the Perseverance looks forward to showing them what human engineering can accomplish." The message went out immediately. Within minutes, dozens of alien ships began moving to follow the race. Some wanted to watch the humans fail. Others were simply curious. Thektar's response came quickly. "Excellent. Let us see how long your metal scrap pile survives in deep space. Perhaps we will find your wreckage on our way to Haven's Rest." More laughter echoed through the station's communications. The humans were providing great entertainment. Captain Lee returned to his command chair. "All stations prepare for departure. We launch in 30 minutes. As the crew worked, none of the watching aliens noticed the subtle changes in the Perseverance's energy readings. The ship's power signature was shifting in ways that made no sense according to known physics. Dr. Park smiled as he made final adjustments to his equipment. Let them laugh now. In a few hours, everything would change. The race was about to begin, and the galaxy had no idea what it was about to witness. Both ships left Nexus Station at exactly the same time. The Crystal Wind shot forward like a silver arrow, its engines glowing with brilliant blue light. The Perseverance followed behind, looking slow and heavy by comparison. Commander Thektar stood on his pristine bridge, watching the human ship grow smaller on his rear display. His crew moved with practiced efficiency around him. Everything on the Crystal Wind was smooth, clean, and perfectly designed. "Distance report," Thektar ordered. "We are pulling ahead rapidly, Commander," his navigator replied. "The human vessel is already falling behind our projected course." Thektar activated the public communication channel that dozens of alien ships were monitoring. As expected, the primitive human technology cannot keep pace with Velkari engineering. "At this rate, we will reach Haven's Rest 3 days before they do." Cheers and applause came through the channel from alien observers. The race was going exactly as everyone had predicted. Aboard the Perseverance, Captain Lee sat calmly in his command chair. The bridge around him looked old and worn compared to the Crystal Wind, but every system worked perfectly. "Sir, they're pulling ahead fast," reported pilot Kim Tae-ho. "Their speed is increasing beyond our current capability." "Stay on course," Lee replied. "Navigator, what's our projected arrival time at Haven's Rest?" Sejin checked her calculations. "At current speed, 4 days and 18 hours, sir." "And the Crystal Wind?" 2 days and 6 hours. They will beat us easily." Captain Lee nodded as if this news didn't bother him at all. "Dr. Park, how are your preparations coming?" Dr. Park looked up from his laboratory station, which he had moved to the bridge for this mission. Banks of computers surrounded him, all running complex calculations. "All systems are responding normally, Captain. The modifications are holding." "Steady." Chief Engineer Eugena's voice came through the communication system. "Engine room reporting all green, sir. Power levels are stable and ready for your orders." The alien communications channels continued to buzz with commentary about the race. Exonian traders were updating their betting odds. Velkari scientists were explaining how their superior technology made victory inevitable. Other species joined in with their own observations about human limitations. Look at how that human ship moves, commented a Zephyrin observer. Like it's fighting through thick mud. Their hyperspace drive is so inefficient, added a Corallian engineer. No wonder. They never became a major galactic power. Medical Officer Beihai Wan listened to these comments while checking their medical supplies one more time. The plague victims on Haven's Rest needed these medicines desperately. Every hour of delay meant more suffering. "Captain," she said, "I hate to add pressure, but the colony's latest reports show the situation is getting worse. They really need us to arrive as soon as possible." "Understood, Doctor," Lee replied. "We'll get there in time." Lieutenant Song Hai-jin monitored ship systems from his station. Everything looked normal, but he knew that was about to change. The crew had been briefed on what might happen, though the full details remained classified. Communications Officer Lim Jae-sung continued receiving messages from the alien observers. Most were mocking comments about human technology, but a few showed genuine curiosity. "Captain, we're getting a private message from Dr. Vexhall, the Velkari scientist on the observer ship Bright Thought. She's asking about our engine specifications." Polite deflection, as usual, Lee replied. "Tell her our engineers prefer to keep their methods private." Hours passed. The Crystal Wind maintained its commanding lead, staying far ahead of the slower human vessel. Thektar made regular updates about their progress, each one more smug than the last. "The human ship continues to lag behind," he announced. "Perhaps they should have brought a solar sail instead. It would be equally effective." More laughter echoed across the communication channels, but Dr. Vexhall was not laughing. She studied the sensor readings from the Perseverance with growing confusion. The ship's energy output kept fluctuating in patterns that made no sense. "Increase our scan resolution," she told her crew. "Focus on the human vessel's power core." "Is there a problem, Doctor?" asked her captain. "I'm not sure. Their energy readings are unusual. The fluctuations follow no pattern I recognize." Meanwhile, aboard the Perseverance, Dr. Park was making final adjustments to his equipment. The modifications to the ship's hyperspace drive were nearly complete. "Captain," he reported, "we're approaching the optimal test parameters. All calculations are confirmed." Eugenia monitored the engine room carefully. The ship's power core was running hotter than usual, but still within safe limits. The structural reinforcements she had installed were handling the stress perfectly. "How much longer, Dr. Park?" Captain Lee asked. "Approximately 2 hours to full readiness, sir." Navigator Oh Se-jin continued plotting their course through hyperspace, but her calculations were unlike anything taught in standard navigation courses. She was mapping routes through dimensions that most species didn't even know existed. Weapons Officer Choi Min-seo watched the tactical displays. The Crystal Wind remained far ahead, but several dozen alien observer ships were following both vessels. When the test began, those ships would have front-row seats to something unprecedented. "Sir," said Kim Tae-ho from the pilot station, "I'm detecting some unusual readings from our own systems. Navigation is becoming more complex." "That's expected," Lee replied calmly. "Stay focused and follow Dr. Park's guidance." The alien commentary continued without pause. Most observers were already declaring Thektar the winner. Some were making jokes about giving the humans a participation trophy, but Dr. Vexahall was becoming more concerned by the minute. Her sensors showed the Perseverance's energy patterns growing more erratic. Whatever the humans were doing, it was beyond her understanding. "Send a private message to the human vessel," she ordered. "Ask if they need assistance. Those readings could indicate a critical system failure." The message reached the Perseverance within minutes. Lim Jae-sung read it to Captain Lee. "Dr. Vexhall is offering engineering assistance. She thinks we might be experiencing power core problems." Lee smiled, slightly. "Send our thanks, but assure her that all systems are operating as intended." 2 hours later, Dr. Park looked up from his calculations. His face was calm, but his eyes showed the excitement of a scientist about to make history. "Captain, all preparations are complete. We are ready to begin the spacefold sequence." The bridge fell completely silent. This was the moment they had all trained for. "All stations prepare for spacefold activation," Lee announced. "This is not a drill." Throughout the ship, crew members secured their stations and checked their safety harnesses. What they were about to attempt had never been tested outside of computer simulations. Dr. Park's hands moved over his controls, initiating spacefold drive in 60 seconds. The alien observers continued their mockery, completely unaware that everything was about to change. 30 seconds. Captain Lee gripped his command chair. "All crew, brace for fold activation." 10 seconds. The ship's power core began to hum with energy unlike anything in the known galaxy. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Spacefold drive activated. Reality began to tear apart around the Perseverance. Space itself began to bend around the Perseverance. What had been empty void suddenly rippled like water disturbed by a stone. Stars in the distance appeared to stretch and twist as reality warped around the human ship. Dr. Park watched his instruments with intense focus. 3 years of calculations were finally being put to the test. The spacefold drive was working exactly as his equations predicted, but seeing it happen in reality was still breathtaking. "Fold field established," he reported to Captain Lee. "All parameters are within acceptable ranges." The ship's hull groaned under stresses that no material was designed to handle. But Chief Engineer Eugenia had prepared for this. Every support beam had been reinforced. Every joint had been strengthened. The Perseverance was built to survive what they were about to do. "Hull integrity holding steady," she reported from the engine room. "All structural modifications are performing as expected." Pilot Kim Tae-ho stared at his navigation display in amazement. The normal rules of movement no longer applied. Space was folding around them, creating shortcuts through dimensions that shouldn't exist. "Captain, I'm reading impossible navigation data. We appear to be moving through space that isn't there." "Stay calm, Kim," Lee replied. "Follow Navigator O's instructions exactly." Navigator O Jin was plotting a course through folded space-time. Her charts showed routes that existed in higher dimensions, paths that could only be traveled when reality itself was bent to allow passage. "Plotting fold space trajectory," she announced. "We're about to take a shortcut through the universe itself." Aboard the Crystal Wind, Thektar was the first to notice something was wrong. His ship's sensors began displaying readings that made no sense. "Navigator, what is that energy signature behind us?" His crew checked their instruments frantically. "Sir, we're detecting massive space-time distortions from the human vessel. The readings are impossible." "Impossible how?" Thektar demanded. "They appear to be manipulating space itself, Commander. Our sensors show the fabric of reality bending around their ship." Thektar stared at his displays in disbelief. The slow, primitive human vessel was somehow generating more power than his ship's entire engine core. But that wasn't the strangest part. "Sir," his science officer reported, "the human ship is no longer following normal hyperspace corridors. They're moving through space that doesn't exist on any navigation chart." On the observer ship, Bright thought, Dr. Vexhal was experiencing the scientific discovery of her lifetime. Her instruments were recording energy patterns that violated everything she understood about physics. "This is impossible," she whispered, staring at her readings. "They're folding space-time itself." Her captain looked over her shoulder at the data. "What does that mean, Doctor?" "It means the humans have developed technology that makes our most advanced drives look like primitive rockets. They're not moving through space, they're making space move around them." Communications Officer Lim Jae-sung monitored the alien channels as panic began to spread among the observers. Ships that had been mocking the human vessel minutes earlier were now frantically trying to understand what they were witnessing. "Captain, the alien observers are in chaos. Half of them think our ship is about to explode. The others are demanding explanations." "Let them wonder," Lee replied calmly. "We have a mission to complete." Dr. Park began the next phase of the spacefold sequence. Reality continued to bend around the Perseverance as the ship prepared to make its first fold jump. "Initiating dimensional shift," he announced. "All crew, prepare for fold transition." The ship's power core reached levels that should have been impossible, but the modifications held. Every system that Eugenia had reinforced stood firm against forces that could tear apart normal matter. Medical Officer Bei Hai-wan monitored the crew's vital signs as the space-fold field affected their bodies. The folding of space-time created strange effects on biological systems, but nothing dangerous. All crew members showing stable life signs, she reported. The fold field is not harming anyone. Lieutenant Song Hai-jin coordinated damage control teams as the ship experienced stresses no vessel had ever endured. But the Perseverance had been built for this exact purpose. Every system was designed to handle the impossible. All stations, report minimal stress damage, he announced. The ship is handling the fold field better than projected. Weapons Officer Choi Min-seo watched her tactical displays with fascination. Her sensors were detecting phantom contacts, echoes of their own ship existing in multiple places at once as space folded around them. Captain, I'm reading multiple signatures of our own vessel. We appear to exist in several locations simultaneously. That's normal for fold space, Lee replied. Don't worry about the echoes. The first fold jump was about to begin. Dr. Park's hands moved over his controls as he prepared to tear a hole in reality itself. Fold jump in 10 seconds, he announced. The alien observers watched in terrified fascination as space continued to warp around the human ship. Some vessels tried to follow the Perseverance's path, but their drives couldn't handle the distorted space-time. 5 seconds to fold jump. 2 Exonian ships that ventured too close to the fold field suffered catastrophic system failures. Their engines shut down as the warped space interfered with their technology. Fold jump initiated. The Perseverance vanished from normal space-time. For a moment, the ship existed everywhere and nowhere. The crew experienced a sensation like falling through dimensions that didn't have names. Space folded around them, creating a tunnel through reality itself. Then they emerged into normal space hundreds of light years from where they had been moments before. Fold jump complete, Dr. Park reported. All systems nominal. We have successfully folded space. Captain Lee looked at his navigation display. They had just traveled a distance that should have taken 3 days in a matter of minutes. Navigator, what's our new position? Oh, Si-jin checked her instruments in amazement. Sir, we're now only 18 hours from Haven's Rest. We've covered 70% of the journey in a single fold jump. The bridge erupted in quiet celebration. They had done it. The spacefold drive worked perfectly. Behind them, the alien observers were trying to comprehend what had just happened. The slow, primitive human ship had somehow moved faster than anything. In known space, Dr. Vexhel stared at her empty sensor displays. The human vessel had simply vanished from normal spacetime, then reappeared impossibly far away. They folded space itself, she said in wonder. They actually folded the universe. Thektar stood on his bridge in stunned silence. His mighty crystal. Wind was now hopelessly behind. The humans had just demonstrated technology that made Valkyrie engineering look like children's toys. Sir, his navigator said quietly, at our current speed, it will take us 4 more days to reach Haven's Rest. And the humans? Based on their new position, they could arrive in less than a day. Aboard the Perseverance, Captain Lee prepared his crew for the final phase of their journey. Excellent work, everyone. Dr. Park, can we make another fold jump? Yes, sir. The drive can handle 1 more fold before we need to recharge. That should put us directly at Haven's Rest. The ship that everyone had mocked was about to win a race in the most spectacular way possible. But more importantly, they were about to save lives that desperately needed saving. The age of human spacefold technology had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. The second fold jump was even more spectacular than the first. Dr. Park had refined his calculations based on the initial test, making the space-time manipulation more precise and powerful. Initiating final fold sequence, he announced from his position at the bridge science station. This jump will take us directly to Haven's Rest. Space around the Perseverance began to tear open like fabric being ripped apart. But this wasn't destruction. It was controlled manipulation of reality itself. The ship was creating doorways through dimensions that most species couldn't even imagine. Chief Engineer Yoo-jin Ah monitored the incredible energy output from her position in the engine room. The ship's power core was running at levels that should have been impossible, but every system was holding steady. Power output at 400% of normal maximum. she reported. All reinforced systems are handling the load perfectly. The fold field expanded around the ship, creating a bubble of altered space-time. Inside this bubble, the normal rules of physics were temporarily suspended. The Perseverance existed in a state between dimensions, traveling through folded space. Navigator O.C. Jin watched her instruments track their movement through higher dimensional space. They were taking shortcuts through the universe itself, moving along paths that only existed when reality was bent to allow passage. Fold trajectory is optimal, she reported. We're moving through 11-dimensional space toward Haven's Rest. Behind them, the alien observers were struggling to understand what they were witnessing. Their most advanced sensors could barely detect what the human ship was doing, let alone explain it. Dr. Vexhall worked frantically at her science station aboard the Bright Thought. She was recording every piece of data her instruments could gather about the human spacefold technology. The energy requirements alone should be impossible, she said to her captain. They're manipulating forces that we thought were purely theoretical. How are they doing it? Her captain asked. I have no idea. Their ship appears to be built specifically for this purpose, but the technology involved is centuries ahead of anything we've developed. Other alien vessels tried desperately to follow the Perseverance's path through folded space, but their drives couldn't handle the distorted dimensions. 2 more ships suffered system failures when they ventured too close to the fold field. Corallian battlecruiser attempted to match the human ship's course, but its advanced quantum drives shut down completely when they encountered the space-time distortions. All ships maintain safe distance from the human vessel, Dr. Vexhall broadcast on the emergency channel. Their spacefold field is interfering with normal ship operations. Aboard the Perseverance, pilot Kim Tae-ho was learning to navigate through folded space. His instruments showed impossible readings. They were moving in directions that didn't exist in normal 3-dimensional space. Captain, navigation is unlike anything I've ever experienced. We're traveling through space that curves back on itself. Stay focused, Kim, Captain Lee replied calmly. Trust Dr. Park's calculations and Navigator O's guidance. Communications Officer Lim Jae-sung monitored the frantic chatter from alien ships throughout the galaxy. Word of the human spacefold demonstration was spreading rapidly through multiple species communication networks. Sir, we're receiving priority messages from dozens of alien governments. They all want immediate explanations about our technology. Standard diplomatic responses for now, Lee ordered. Tell them we'll be happy to discuss technological matters through proper diplomatic channels. Medical Officer Bae Haiwan continued, monitoring the crew's health during the fold jump. The manipulation of space-time had subtle effects on biological systems, but nothing harmful. All crew members remain healthy, she reported. The fold field is actually having some interesting, positive effects on cellular regeneration. Dr. Park made final adjustments to the spacefold field as they approached Haven's Rest. The precision required for ending a fold jump safely was even greater than beginning one. Preparing for fold space exit, he announced. We need to return to normal space-time without destabilizing the destination system. Lieutenant Song Hai-jin coordinated systems throughout the ship as they prepared to emerge from folded space. The transition back to normal physics would put stress on every component. All departments report ready for fold space exit, he announced. Weapons. Officer Choi Min-seo watched her tactical displays as they approached their destination. Her sensors were still detecting multiple echoes of their own ship, phantom contacts created by moving through folded dimensions. Captain, I'm reading Haven's Rest system directly ahead. We're about to complete our fold jump. The space around them began to stabilize as Dr. Park carefully controlled their return to normal space-time. The fold field contracted slowly, allowing reality to return to its natural state. Fold space exit in 30 seconds, Dr. Park announced. Captain, Lee looked around his bridge at the crew who had just made history. They had successfully tested humanity's first spacefold drive, proving that humans could manipulate space-time itself. Excellent work, everyone. We're about to arrive at Haven's Rest ahead of schedule. The Perseverance emerged from folded space directly in orbit around Haven's Rest. The colony world appeared on their main screen, a blue and green planet dotted with human settlements. Arrival complete, Navigator Osejin reported. Total travel, time, 17 hours and 43 minutes. The bridge was silent for a moment as everyone absorbed what they had accomplished. A journey that should have taken a week was completed in less than 18 hours. Communications Officer Lim received an immediate message from Haven's Rest Orbital Control. Captain, the colony is requesting immediate medical assistance. The plague situation is critical, but they're amazed we arrived so quickly. Tell them we're beginning emergency medical relief operations immediately, Lee replied. Medical Officer Bei Hai-wan was already preparing to transport the medical supplies to the planet's surface. The medicines they carried could save thousands of lives. Medical teams are ready for immediate deployment, she reported. Meanwhile, throughout the galaxy, alien species were trying to comprehend what had just happened. The slow, primitive human ship had just demonstrated technology that made their most advanced civilizations look backward. Commander Thektar stood on the bridge of his crystal wind, still 3 days away from Haven's Rest. His crew worked in stunned silence around him. Sir, his science officer said quietly, we need to reconsider everything we thought we knew about human capabilities. Dr. Vexhal was already composing urgent reports to the Velkari Science Council. The implications of human spacefold technology would reshape galactic politics forever. They've been hiding this capability, she said to her captain. While we mocked their ships as primitive, they were developing technology beyond our comprehension. Other alien species were reaching similar conclusions. The humans had used their reputation for being slow and backward as camouflage, while developing revolutionary technology in secret. Captain Lee opened a communication channel to the alien observers, who were still trying to follow their path to Haven's Rest. This is Captain Lee of the human vessel Perseverance. We have successfully arrived at Haven's Rest and are beginning emergency medical operations. To answer your questions, yes, we have developed spacefold technology. No, this is not a one-time experiment. Humanity has been preparing for this moment for several years. The message sent shockwaves through the alien fleet. The humans hadn't just gotten lucky. They had deliberately developed technology that could revolutionize space travel. We look forward to discussing the implications of spacefold technology through proper diplomatic channels, Lee continued. But right now, we have lives to save. The age of human dominance in galactic affairs had begun with a medical mission, and a ship that everyone had underestimated. The galaxy would never be the same. The medical relief operation on Haven's Rest was a complete success. Within 6 hours of arrival, Medical Officer Bei Hai-wan and her teams had distributed critical medicines to every affected settlement on the planet. Plague containment is ahead of schedule, she reported to Captain Lee from the colony's main medical center. The medicines we brought are exactly what they needed. We'll save thousands of lives. Captain Lee stood in the colony administrator's office, looking out at the settlements that were already showing signs of recovery. This mission had been about more than testing new technology. It was about saving people who desperately needed help. Thank you, Captain, said Administrator Chen Wei-ming, a middle-aged woman whose relief was obvious. When we sent the emergency request, we hoped someone would arrive within 2 weeks. You got here in less than a day. Human engineering has its advantages, Lee replied with a slight smile. 3 days later, the crystal wind arrived at Haven's Rest. Commander Thektar's magnificent vessel looked just as impressive as always, but his confidence was completely shattered. The Velkari commander requested a meeting with Captain Lee immediately upon arrival. They met in a conference room aboard the Perseverance, surrounded by the ship's worn but functional interior. Thektar looked around the human ship with new eyes. What he had seen as primitive was actually purposeful design. Every system was built for efficiency and durability rather than appearance. Captain Lee, Thektar began formally, I owe you and your crew an apology. I underestimated your capabilities in the most profound way possible. Apology accepted, Commander, Lee replied graciously. We all make assumptions sometimes. Your spacefold technology, Thektar continued, it changes everything. How long have humans possessed this capability? The Perseverance is our first operational spacefold vessel, Lee answered honestly. But we've been developing the technology for several years. Dr. Vexhall entered the conference room at that moment, having requested permission to attend the meeting. Her excitement about the human technology was barely contained. Captain Lee, I represent the Velkari Science Council. We would like to request a formal scientific exchange program. Your spacefold technology represents the greatest breakthrough in physics in centuries. Captain Lee nodded thoughtfully. We're always interested in scientific cooperation, Dr. Vexhall. Such matters would need to be arranged through proper diplomatic channels, of course. Word of the human achievement had already spread throughout the galaxy. Within hours of their arrival at Haven's Rest, representatives from dozens of species had requested meetings. Communications Officer Lim Jae-sung was handling a constant stream of diplomatic messages. Captain, we have formal meeting requests from the Corallian Trade Federation, the Exonian Commercial Alliance, the Zephyrin Exploration Council, and 17 other major powers. Schedule diplomatic meetings as appropriate, Lee replied. But remember, our primary mission here is medical relief. Dr. Park worked with colony scientists to document the spacefold drive's performance. The test had exceeded all expectations, proving that human spacefold technology was not only functional, but superior to any existing propulsion system. The energy efficiency was remarkable, he explained to the fascinated alien scientists who had gathered. By folding space itself, we eliminate most of the energy waste inherent in traditional hyperspace drives. Chief Engineer Yu Jin-ah gave tours of the Perseverance's engine room to alien engineers who requested them. Many were amazed by the elegant simplicity of human engineering. We don't build things to look impressive, she explained to a group of Velkari engineers. We build them to work under any conditions. A Corallian engineer examined the structural reinforcements throughout the ship. These modifications are ingenious. You prepared this vessel specifically for spacefold stresses. Every system was designed with fold space operation in mind, Yu confirmed. That's why the ship looks so different from yours. Navigator Oh Se-jin shared her fold space navigation techniques with alien navigators. The concept of plotting courses through 11-dimensional space was completely new to most species. Traditional navigation follows hyperspace corridors that already exist, she explained. Fold space navigation creates temporary corridors by bending space-time itself. Lieutenant Song Hai-jin coordinated the constant stream of alien visitors while maintaining ship security. The Perseverance had become the center of galactic attention overnight. Sir, we have delegations from 43 different species requesting visits, he reported to Captain Lee. Interest in our technology is unprecedented. Weapons Officer Choi Min-seo monitored the growing fleet of alien ships gathering around Haven's Rest. Most were diplomatic vessels, but some were clearly military. Scouts gathering intelligence. Captain, we have over 200 alien ships in the system now, she reported. All are maintaining respectful distances, but they're definitely studying us. Pilot Kim Tae-ho had become something of a celebrity among alien pilots who wanted to understand how someone could navigate through folded space. The sensation is unlike anything else, he told a fascinated group of Exonian pilots. You're not moving through space in the traditional sense. Space is moving around you. A week after their arrival, Captain Lee held a formal press conference attended by representatives from most major galactic powers. The meeting was broadcast throughout known space. Humanity has successfully developed spacefold technology, he announced to the assembled delegates. This represents a new chapter in galactic civilization. A Velkari diplomat raised her hand. Captain Lee, will humanity share this technology with other species? Technology sharing will be considered through appropriate diplomatic negotiations, Lee replied diplomatically. Humanity believes in cooperation, but also in responsible development. A Corallian representative asked, how many human ships possess spacefold capability? Lee smiled slightly. The Perseverance was our first operational test. We have additional vessels under development. This statement sent murmurs through the assembled delegates. The humans weren't just showing off a prototype. They were building an entire spacefold fleet. Dr. Vexhall asked the question everyone wanted answered. Captain, why did humans develop this technology in secret? Why not collaborate with other species? Captain Lee considered his answer carefully. For decades, humanity was dismissed as a minor species with primitive technology. This gave us the freedom to research revolutionary concepts without interference. Sometimes being underestimated is an advantage. The implications of his words were clear. While other species had focused on refining existing technology, humans had been developing something completely new. After the press conference, Captain Lee met privately with his crew in the ship's conference room. "We've accomplished something historic," he told them. "But this is just the beginning. Earth has been preparing for this moment for years." Dr. Park nodded. "There are 5 more spacefold ships under construction. Within 2 years, humanity will have a fleet capable of reaching any point in the galaxy within days. The political implications are enormous," added Lieutenant Song. "We've just announced that humanity is now a major galactic power." Navigator, Oxygen looked at her star charts with new understanding. "Spacefold technology will change how every species thinks about distance and travel. We've just shrunk the galaxy." Medical Officer Bei Hai-wan smiled as she reviewed the final medical reports from Haven's Rest. "And we did it while saving lives. That's something to be proud of." Captain Lee stood and looked at each of his crew members. The galaxy spent decades laughing at slow human ships. Today they learned that we weren't slow. We were moving so fast we were ahead of time itself. As the Perseverance prepared for its return journey to Earth, alien ships throughout the galaxy were reporting the same message to their governments. Humanity had just changed the rules of space travel forever. The age of human dominance in galactic affairs had begun, started by a crew that everyone had underestimated until the moment they tore space apart and saved thousands of lives in the process. Commander Thektar watched the human ship prepare for departure from his bridge aboard the Crystal Wind. His previous arrogance had been replaced by genuine respect. "Signal the Perseverance," he ordered. "Tell Captain Lee that the Velkari people look forward to a long and productive relationship with humanity." Similar messages came from species throughout the galaxy. The slow human ship had taught them all a lesson about assumptions, engineering, and the power of being underestimated. As the Perseverance activated its spacefold drive for the journey home, reality once again bent around the vessel that had changed galactic history forever. The stars themselves seemed to acknowledge that a new age had begun.